Today, the Children's Society work with some of the most disadvantaged and challenged young people in the country. The reality of the situation which some young people face in our society can be hard to hear. So if anyone is affected by the story I'm about to share with you, which relates to child criminal exploitation, please do feel free to step away at any time. I'm going to tell you about Robbie and his mum Jenny. The story I'm going to tell you is true, but obviously the names and identifying details have been changed to protect the young person involved. Robbie was a bright and thoughtful teenager. He enjoyed school and time with family and friends. His behaviour started to change though. He became distant. Jenny, his mum, assumed he was just going through a difficult age, normal teenage stuff. But what she was actually witnessing were signs that Robbie was being exploited. When a child is exploited, their life is controlled by their exploiters. Their choices are taken away from them. They often go missing from home and school for long periods of time without any contact with their family or friends who have absolutely no idea where they are. Their life is being totally controlled by gang culture, with threats of violence to them and their families if they don't comply, and their entire future life literally hanging in the balance. First, Robbie was caught shoplifting, then he went missing for weeks. When he got home, he wouldn't talk about it. The officers who found him suspected he was being groomed by criminals, befriended, manipulated and forced to steal. Jenny didn't know what to do. She said, "It felt like I was losing my son. At times I didn't know whether he was dead or alive." Jenny took the extremely difficult decision to leave everything she knew. She left her home and her job. She moved to a totally different area. She hoped this would help her son escape from the vicious circle of returning to the groomer again and again and again. But not long after this, the gang tracked Robbie down. He was found carrying drugs into another city and taken to the police station. The officers sat him down and charged him as a criminal with intent to supply drugs. Robbie wouldn't tell the police the full story. The men who forced him to sell drugs scared him so much more than the thought of prison. Jenny was in shock. Robbie was being charged for something he'd been forced and threatened into. In reality, he wasn't a criminal. He was an exploited child who needed protection. During the police interview, Robbie had told the police that he was scared and there was no way the police could ever protect him. If he talked, that men who were in charge of the gang would kill him. When children like Robbie are befriended and forced to take drugs across the country, it's known as county lines exploitation. The lines refer to mobile phones that are used to control a young person who is delivering drugs, often to towns outside of their home county. Now, we all have a preconceived perception of what a young person or child groomed into a gang looks like. But it can happen to any child, any gender, any heritage, from any background, and anywhere in the UK. Every day was a fight to prove Robbie was innocent. Jenny says the stress of a court case is huge, and throughout it, you're just existing. The Children's Society runs several services to disrupt exploitation. One of our therapists, Alex, helped Jenny and Robbie get through this difficult time. She listened. She was there when Jenny couldn't face things alone. Jenny says, "Alex brought me out of the hole I was in. She was so positive. She helped improve my relationship with Robbie, and now we communicate so much better, and I've improved the way I speak to him. It takes me back a bit, thinking about all the signs I missed. If I'd known about them, would I have caught on? My son had expensive bottles of alcohol, a cannabis grinder, Rizzler papers in his drawer, and I was thinking, where did he get these things from? Because I've not given him any money. I know now it was because he's being groomed. Before this happened, I knew absolutely nothing about gangs or grooming or exploitation. I was really angry when I found out this was happening to young children. Young people aged between 14 and 17 are most likely to be targeted by criminal gangs. But as a charity, we have worked with children as young as 7 being groomed into county lines. Primary school children are seen as easy targets because they're less likely to get caught. The grooming might start with them being asked to keep watch, but soon it escalates with them being forced to stash weapons, money, or becoming drugs couriers. 90% of English police forces have reported county lines activity in their area, and they say the violence that comes along with it is just getting worse. It's not just a big city problem. County lines is far-reaching, with many smaller towns and villages being affected. It's thought that 46,000 children in England are involved in gangs. To put things into perspective, if you sat these children in a 56-seater school bus, you would need 822 buses to accommodate them all. And if you put these buses nose to tail, they would stretch for over 7 miles. The Children's Society have services that work directly with young people to prevent them from being groomed and exploited. These services also exist to support those already involved in gangs, to help them get away from the gangs, to rebuild their lives, and to give them hope for a better future. The sad and shocking fact is this figure of 46,000 children is sadly short of reality, and we expect this number to be significantly more. Enough is enough. County lines alongside all forms of child exploitation must stop. But to do this, we need to widely increase the understanding of child exploitation across society and ensure that systems and responses of professionals that are in place to identify and support these youngsters are fit for purpose. Our multi-award winning prevention programme builds connections with professionals from across different organisations to improve the systems and responses to child exploitation and abuse. They also work to reframe the assumptions around victimhood and encourage people to see children as victims, not criminals. Where gangs have forced children into another city or town to deliver drugs or money, they're often left without any means to get home. They might try to get onto a train without a ticket and dodge the fare. Our prevention officers have been working alongside British Transport Police. They have been training railway officers and guards to look closer to the signs of children and young people who might be victims of exploitation. One guard explained how her approach to the next person she saw travelling alone without a ticket on the train had changed since following our training. She found a young teenage boy sat on the floor in the luggage area. When she discovered he didn't have a ticket or means to pay for a ticket, instead of evicting the boy from the train at the next station, she sat down on the floor beside him and started to find out a little bit more about him. She discovered where he travelled from and where he was heading home to, and established that this young person was very, very hungry. So on the pretence of getting him a sandwich, she left discreetly to call the destination station and ensure that on his arrival, support would be waiting for him. This would ensure that he could escape from the cycle of exploitation. British Transport Officer Lydia told us, "Commonly we see young people double shuffling through ticket barriers, clearly avoiding officers or rail staff, trying to use incorrect tickets or using tickets purchased by an adult for the child who then travels alone. They may wear double tracksuits to conceal what they're carrying, and it may be signs that they have been away from home for multiple days by how they look or smell. Their behaviours may convey nervousness, fear, or even distress. Children who are being exploited respond in different ways. Some, like Robbie, become distant. Others might seem upset or say they don't need help. It's our job, it's all our jobs, to look closer and see the child beneath. By collectively getting to know the signs, we can help keep young people safe. As for Robbie, finally, after 7 long months, the judge saw Robbie as a victim and cleared him of all charges. Fast forward to today and things are very different. Instead of years behind bars, Robbie is safe at home with his family again. He's thrilled to have passed his GCSEs and now has secured a job. Jenny is so proud of him and says he's now taking his driving lessons and saving up for a course. He just seems so much lighter where he is mentally, and that's so good to see. You can make a very real difference in the fight against county lines and support young people like Robbie. Please do share our Look Closer message. You can find details of this on our website. We also ask that if you're in a position to do so, please make a donation to the Children's Society. Every single penny you can donate will make a real difference. We would love you to hold an event. Bake sales, bric-a-brac sales, coffee mornings and quizzes can all raise much needed significant funds and bring the community together. We're always looking for volunteer speakers to go into churches, schools and community groups to talk about the issues our young people are facing today. And if for any reason you cannot do any of the above, please pray that the horrors being inflicted on some of the most vulnerable young people come to an end. Thank you for listening.